Hi everyone, and welcome to What's New in Vectorworks Landmark 2011. Over the last year, our development team has created a breakthrough feature set that is absolutely second to none. We'll take a look at many of these new tools and features that will aid in taking your drawing production from concept to completion while incorporating modeling for analysis and presentation. You'll see how these improvements and additions continue to make Vectorworks Landmark flexible, versatile, intuitive, and smart. The integrated 2D, 3D workflow in Vectorworks has always been the reason for efficiency in Vectorworks. So in showing what's new, one of the first things you'll notice is there's only one selection tool. With the new single selection tool, all of the functionality of the 2D and 3D selection tools have been combined into one, helping users see their 2D and 3D work truly integrated. As a part of the expanded combination of 2D and 3D workflows, the full representation of our 2D planar shapes in 3D space now enables us to view our ideas and analyze them for size and shape as we continue to build our spaces. Now in Landmark 2011, not only will our 2D shapes, such as colors, gradients, and hatches, maintain their full attributes in 3D, but notice as the dimensions I place on these objects while in a 3D view stay with this drawing as we return to a 2D view. Continuing with this example, we'll use the new push-pull tool to extrude a shape from a 2D object, such as this proposed walk and overlook. Notice that I can set it to take on a typical 6-inch curved height. Exploring the design becomes easier in Landmark 2011, as we can use the new Extract Planar Object tool to acquire just the geometry from this face. And now I'll move it up into a position 8 feet above the walk. From here we can study how the idea of an overhead structure works with our overlook, and continue our site design in both 2D and 3D to see where the idea of the overlook and its structure may go. With the introduction of the new existing tree tool, creating and working with tree preservation plans by documenting existing trees and other vegetation is now easier than ever. As with many site design projects, it's likely that the site development will affect the existing plant material, and the action comments choices within the existing tree tool can better reflect this in the proposed landscape plan. Symbols can also be customized to reflect a proposed action for a particular tree through the 2D properties palette. Whether displaying the existing tree's critical root zone and related protection zone, or documenting the tree's diameter at breast height, or DBH, both plan graphics and data can go to work for us in our plans and reports. And of course, the existing tree objects wouldn't be complete if they didn't have 3D representation. The 3D representation of these trees can be modified to more closely approximate the actual canopy provided by the tree, and can then be used to further study the site for any other recommendations. So now let's look at the hardscape object. This has been a favorite in Vectorworks Landmark, and in 2011 hardscapes have become even easier and more informative. As we select this driveway hardscape and review its settings, you'll notice one exciting improvement is component classing. Now with component classing, designers can assign classes for the hardscape's tag, its border joints, and its main area joints, expanding on the ability to assign classes to the main and border areas. This of course helps to more fully represent the hardscape in 2D and 3D views. And now if we look at the Object Info palette, you'll see some additional information. The hardscape properties now reports footprint area, main perimeter, and footprint perimeter. Additional information that'll aid in further quantifying your materials. And another new feature of the hardscape tool is the concept of saving hardscapes as a resource. So in this example, let's see how we can use this feature to make a design decision easier. The homeowner has requested a similar paving pattern for their patio and their driveway. So since the patio hardscape has been saved as a resource, we can simply drag the saved hardscape from the resource browser onto the proposed hardscape and instantly see the result. And yet another option is to drag the saved hardscape into an area of a proposed paver surface and then reshape the hardscape to conform to the designed shape. It's just that easy. The Digital Terrain Model, or DTM, is already the tool most designers appreciate for making their projects come to life with its 3D representation and its ability to provide accurate quantification of proposed cut and fill. So let's see how Vectorworks Landmark 2011 delivers more site modeling functionality to further meet these needs. For starters, being able to distinguish existing from proposed contours is made easier with the ability to choose different colors for existing and proposed major and minor contour lines. In this example, the existing major and minor contours are shown in green, while the proposed major and minor contours are blue. And while we're talking about the visual display of the site model, one little gem worth mentioning is how the site model can now take on 2D attributes, like the willow green color we see here. With Landmark 2011, designers can now use color to illustrate even more slope ranges than before, and can now emulate a typical slope analysis, coloring the slopes between contours. Other color graphic settings can be utilized to study where a site's net cut and fill will take place in both 2D and 3D. We can see here where red has been chosen to represent cuts in site grading, and blue is chosen to designate the areas of fill. Users will now be able to generate reports in the form of worksheets and text files to verify in more detail how much cut and how much fill will be generated by any proposed work on the site. Additionally, the ability to see this data mapped out on the site plan can help identify where soil volumes are changing. Another exciting new feature of the site model is the ability to map images directly onto the tin surface of the model without having to convert the model to a mesh. As we see in this example, the DTM, whether generated from points or contour lines, can now be rendered with a chosen image. This will certainly help in evaluating both existing site conditions as well as any proposed work on the site. And since we've been talking about the site model, it seems only fitting to now present our new site modifying objects, starting with a new feature, Create a Retaining Wall Site Modifier. This feature can more accurately modify a site model by involving 3 site modifiers related to the proposed wall object. So let's see what's up. In this example, a proposed wall is selected and referenced when choosing to create retaining wall site modifier. The first modifier helps to establish the bottom of the retaining wall, and the other 2 establish the proposed grade on either side of the wall. Users will also appreciate the Create Stepped Wall feature. Its options allow the designer to be more efficient with material in proposing walls that conform to changing terrain. By selecting the walls and then choosing the Create Stepped Wall command, we see where the wall can be made to step down following the terrain. Other options allow the wall to step evenly by a given dimension. Keep in mind, steps can be made on the bottom of the wall as shown, or the top, or both. And now moving on, if you like the functionality of the grade calculator, you'll love its enhancement as the new grade tool. This new tool creates an object that annotates individual slopes and can network together to show slope characteristics across a surface. The tool also modifies surface grades, which means more control over creating site drainage features such as swales. In Vectorworks 2011, you can now convert 3D locus points into stake objects. For instance, here's an existing site model created using 3D loci from a survey file. Remember, the original 3D loci can be converted into stake objects, and then the stake objects can be used to create a site model. However, since the site model is already created, I'll use the original source data to create stake objects to be used as site modifiers for the proposed site model. So here's the original source data. Now remember, we can also use the stake objects to label points on the site model. You could do this by selecting the desired 3D loci, then go to Modify, Convert, Stake Objects from 3D Locus. For labeling purposes, I'll choose Set Elevation to Site Model for the mode, so that the elevation of each stake object is displayed. Now choose a label reference, site model, and style, and then click OK. Notice the 3D loci have been changed to stake objects, each showing its corresponding elevation. Another new feature that'll help us do our job better, faster, and easier is a new resource we call Text Style. Here's an example where we can make the style of text in this detail consistent with the other details by creating a text style resource. In creating a text style resource, you'll set the text font, size, style, alignment, and color, and name it as a discrete text style, which can then be saved in the resource browser. To use this feature, either select the text style from the Object Info palette or simply drag and drop a text style onto a text block in your drawing. Editing a text style is easier too, since text styles behave like symbols. Once we change the color and size, for example, all the text carrying that previous style updates to the new style. An additional text editing feature is Perfect Preview Text Editing. With this new feature, you'll see exactly how the text will be placed and printed after you're done editing and before you print. And as with most word processing programs, you can now fully justify your text by selecting this option from the pull-down in the Object Info palette. Okay, so I've saved one of the best for last. As you probably know, Renderworks in 2010 allowed you to produce some very nice renderings, as you can see here. But many of you asked for more. You asked for faster rendering capabilities, and you asked for higher quality, more realistic images. And you wondered if it could be made easier to use. And so we thought, why not? So after hearing your requests, we didn't just improve the old rendering capabilities. We started from scratch with a whole new rendering engine, Cinema 4D. Now Renderworks is better than even we thought it could be. Here, watch this. The speed's obviously there, in this case about 5 to 7 times faster. And the quality, yes, it's there too. And you'll be surprised at the improved control of both shaders and light. As I said earlier, and I'm sure you'll agree, the development team has been hard at work this year, and it shows. Vectorworks Landmark 2011 delivers some really exciting new tools and features that are sure to make your site design and modeling experience easier than ever.